Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're going to get started. First and foremost, welcome to NeueHouse. I run membership here, and we're really excited to be collaborating with Jed Wexler, who is a long-term NeueHouse member, and this phenomenal list of panelists. So welcome, and please enjoy.
Wow. Well, welcome, everybody. Thank you, NeueHouse. Before we get started, so who here is in a cannabis-related business? Anybody? Sprinkling of hands. Who wants to get into a cannabis-related business? More hands. Okay. Who knows someone who's in a cannabis-related business? Okay, I think we covered everybody. This is a great group. We're along for the ride together, and it's really a pleasure. You know, there's this new wave of modern cannabis and hemp-derived products that has entered the retail mainstream thanks to these guys, and really up until very recently, the cannabis industry seems like it really didn't have a lot of space for modern design and presentation, let alone luxury, while being under the veil of the black market. But that veil has been lifted. Now there's a lot of people entering this space, realizing that there is this upscale market, and I'm really pleased to have these four visionaries pushing this and creating a new path. These guys are at the tip of the spear, so I'm going to go ahead and do my introductions. Right there we have Anja Charbonneau, the editor-in-chief of Broccoli Magazine, an international magazine created by and for women who love cannabis. This is my favorite quote. Our purpose is to normalize cannabis by discussing it through the lens of art, fashion, and culture. She's joining us from Portland, Oregon, a legal state. Next to her, on her right, we have Cindy Capobianco, founder of Lord Jones, luxury CBD brand that Into the Gloss recently referred to as the chicest line of cannabis products that ever existed. She flew in from Los Angeles. Also, a legal state. And sitting right here next to me, we have Andrew Goetz, co-founder of apothecary brand Malin+Goetz, although he doesn't actually put cannabis in his cannabis collection of candles, fragrances, and hand washes. He was definitely one of the first to reference cannabis in the modern apothecary space, and in the process, we feel he transformed the category. And as we all know, New York is not a legal state. I'm sorry, Andrew.
Yes.
Yes, that's coming. And then on the end here, we have Megan Villa, creative and content director of Svn Space, an e-commerce and storytelling site focused on hemp and CBD-derived wellness for women. I'm going to let her video do the talking for her. I love that video, Megan. I'm going to go down the line and start with you. So what is driving this new modern green evolution? Is it wellness, beauty, skincare, fashion, design? What's the opportunity here?
I think it's all opportunity. I would probably, if I had to pick one, probably say wellness, because I think that's the most accessible. I think most people are interested in that these days, feeling good about themselves. A lot of people have ailments that they're looking to cure, and a lot of them are looking to natural remedies. And cannabis is a plant, and it's natural, and I think that's why a lot of the interest lies there. With CBD, obviously, that's the hot topic these days, and I just think the plant in general is amazing, and the more people learn about it, the more people are going to become engaged with it. So I would say probably the wellness side of the plant, I think, is what is really driving this kind of
on
green
the product
evolution.
and Anja, from where you sit, creating stories and storytelling and imagery around this, what are you seeing driving it from a publishing and media end?
Yeah, I think that there's so many different sectors, like you're saying, like wellness and beauty, and that are going to blow up in a really huge way. And while we're not making products that you can consume or rub on your skin or anything, we do have a chance to tell some really interesting stories about what people who are getting into the industry or who have been part of it while it was illegal or still illegal, like we can really bring those voices forward and make sure that the cannabis that's happening now still really pays attention to like who was there first and how we can like make it a really responsible and ethical industry.
And Cindy, I think I know what you might say, but what do you think is driving this market from a product's perspective?
Well, I think cannabis is, the most exciting category right now in the health and wellness sector. And cannabis is like no other business I've ever seen in my lifetime. We believe that we're part of a revolution. So we don't think about CBD. We think about this ancient plant-based medicine, which has been stigmatized for so long, and we're committed to destigmatizing, normalizing, and bringing this plant to the level of awareness that it deserves. So I think the possibilities with cannabis are endless and infinite, and we're committed to educating people so that they can really understand what this is and how it works.
And Andrew, from where you sit.
So we looked at it from a little bit of a different perspective because we were literally, as a skincare brand, about wellness and well-being for your skin. And cannabis for us was an opportunity to look back at the history of cannabis because it really went back to old apothecaries to the early 19th century. And we looked at it, it was a very much a staple of it. And it was about wellness, and it was used for glaucoma and anxiety and all sorts of reasons. And we thought, well, this was an opportunity to sort of bring it to the forefront, but also to be a little cheeky about it. We also have been rebellious within our sector, and so we thought we'd stir the pot a little bit by making it a cannabis candle and a cannabis eau de parfum and hand wash.
And to that, experts say the next $1 trillion industry is health and wellness, and Andrew wasn't the original intent of apothecaries wellness. So is the apothecary the new dispensary, or is the dispensary the new apothecary, or is it both?
I think it's probably both. It's the dispensaries are picking up where the traditional chemists and apothecaries have left off from a completely different perspective, I think.
And Cindy, do you feel like you're going to be in apothecaries and high-end retail? Like, what are your thoughts on what Andrew just said?
I think cannabis is unfortunately far from being legalized that broadly. And we feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is the beginning of consciousness about this plant, which of course is thousands and thousands of years old. But I think that what's happening is that people are realizing that prescription medication has tremendous side effects. At some point in taking it for whatever ailment, it can stop working and it's not effective any longer. And what we've learned through our business is that the possibilities around cannabis are really endless. So I feel like this is just the beginning. I don't know if we'll be on the shelf in kind of standard apothecaries, but I'm hoping that this is the beginning of the tide that will continue to turn.
Speaking of the market, we love that women seem to be driving this new upscale market, skincare, beauty, media. You know, Anja, you were recently quoted in Vogue as saying, "No one was speaking to this massive group of women who are creative, driven, intelligent, and have a lot of interests outside of weed." Can you, expand on this? Is this true? What is the demographic? Is it women? And then,
Yeah, I mean, for people who are like creative, really hardworking, and enjoy using cannabis, it's not often like the 24/7 focus of their lives, right? And until these new things have started popping up, like really great little ceramic pipes, like the ceramicists have done a lot of work for us, I think, making things look better and make it fit into part of everyone's daily life in a way that feels comfortable. And to like really show that moment that you take if you are someone who uses cannabis, it's like, it's a ritual and it's something that should be treated the way you would treat any other important part of your life. So when we were treating it like something special that fits in.
Yeah, and Megan, your site is, geared for women's wellness. I mean, what are you seeing? Did you start the site because something was missing? You're filling a void. Is this a women's market? Is that the customer?
Yeah, definitely. Women are our direct customer, and we came across a lot of amazing female platforms in more of the cannabis marijuana space, but there was a huge hole in the hemp space. And hemp's kind of like the redheaded stepchild that people don't talk about much. It's not quite as glamorous, but the more and more that we learned about the plant, we just were like, we have to tell people about all of these amazing things that it can do. And so we just want to educate women and men if they want to come to the site. But we are focused on beauty, wellness, and lifestyle. So that's all aspects of the plant, from CBD and hemp oils to food products to apparel. Like this dress is Mara Hoffman. It's 100% hemp. When you've got people like Mara Hoffman that are moving into this space, it's going to, like as you said, change the tides. I think people are going to start learning more about it, how amazing it is, how sustainable it is, and we just want to, kind of scream it from the rooftops and just educate people on it.
And Cindy, and then back to Megan, can you discuss the CBD? Cannabidiol is 100% legal. It's non-psychoactive. It's showing up in a ton of products. What challenges are you facing? Even though it is legal in growing your CBD business, with regulations or gray areas and things like that.
I don't think it's true to say it's completely legal. It still exists in a gray area, and it's very tempting to, because it's being accepted in the culture so quickly to feel like it is legal. But CBD, hemp-derived CBD is still under the cannabis plant, family of plant and umbrella. So, and cannabis is a Schedule I narcotic, just like heroin. Schedule II narcotic is cocaine. So, in the eyes of the federal government, cannabis is highly illegal. So it's a very gray area. It's very complex. The federal laws and municipal laws are changing daily. So we are constantly monitoring these laws. Anyone who's in this business knows that you have to take, you have to shoulder some risk to be in this business, and you have to figure out what risk is right for you. So just briefly, kind of a 101, CBD is cannabidiol. It's one of the over 100 active compounds in the plant that are called cannabinoids. The other very well-known cannabinoid is THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, which is the psychoactive compound. It gets you high. It's a euphoric compound. There are many, many, many other cannabinoids. The research and the understanding of this plant is changing every day. that's incredibly exciting, but it's a very complex and legally gray business still to enter and to be in. So I just, yeah.
Okay. No, there are, gray areas, and Megan, you carry CBD products, hemp-derived products. How does that impact what you're carrying and what's tracking in terms of what, products? How do you select products with this now avalanche of products? What is your methodology? Because I know there are regulations and,
well, the biggest thing for us right now, we're sticking to topical CBD products. We're staying away from tinctures and vapes and all that kind of stuff. But one of our biggest problems has actually been promoting who we are and getting it out there. Facebook and Instagram have denied any post that we've tried to promote. An example is we did a Father's Day gift guide the other day. We posted an image of a father and a little girl. We did not even mention the word hemp in it, and we got declined because now we're on a flag list. So we're just trying to educate people about a plant. Everything about this plant is amazing, and we're getting shut down by these big monsters of companies like Facebook and Instagram. And I know a lot of other brands are dealing with this. And then just really quickly on the hemp side of things and the laws, literally 2 days ago, the Senate committee just actually approved the Farm Bill, which has a hemp bill as a part of it, that Mitch McConnell, actually it's a bipartisan bill, which is a really big deal, to basically legalize industrial hemp under the Farm Bill. So it would take it off of that Schedule 1, and people would be able to farm it and grow it. And so that's a really big deal. It's supposed to go before the Senate, I think before July 4th. So that's a huge win for the hemp industry, and that would eliminate a lot of that gray area with CBD, hemp-derived CBD, and kind of give that safety net to a lot of the companies that are creating these amazing products, and they don't have to kind of hide in the shadows and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was actually my next question, so thank you very much. Let's talk tactically. The only place that the Google, Facebook duopoly isn't dominating is the cannabis business, because they're not allowing this to happen. People are getting shut down, accounts. It impacts people's customer acquisition. Every other business and e-commerce business can run customer acquisition campaigns, So I would go down, the line, Megan, so you've had some issues with even SEO. So what is working to build audiences and do customer acquisition for you? And then we'll just kind of go down the line.
Well, something I have to say really quick about Lord Jones is I feel like Lord Jones has done a phenomenal job of PR, and I think that's a great way of getting around advertising and getting the word out about your brand or your product. Influencers, you kind of have to skirt around the traditional advertising, and like I said, Lord Jones, I've seen it pop up everywhere, and it's actually been huge, I think, just for the industry as a whole, because it's getting eyeballs. Even broccoli, the coverage that you guys have been getting in mainstream media, I think is helping a lot, just with people being interested and they wanting to learn more and seeking out certain brands and certain media outlets. So I think PR is huge, influencer marketing, but it's hard. It's really hard.
Cindy, you're a fashion industry, veteran, and you've come from Donna Karan and Banana Republic. How has PR, and then we can even talk about experiences, how has it measurably impacted your business? Because it does seem like that traditional avenue is what we have to work with for now. Yeah?
So, we have never paid for any placement. We've never used anything but earned media. Our product has been lucky enough to have, very powerful word of mouth, and that goes beyond the packaging. The packaging will only get you so far, because if the product doesn't live up to your expectations around what the box looks like, you won't get a repeat customer, and a business is built on repeat customers. So So, word of mouth is very important. We were lucky enough to have a lot of influencers who were really kind of the first to put themselves out there. Jessica Seinfeld and Mandy Moore and Amy Schumer, who really, wanted to join this wellness movement and this the movement around destigmatizing and educating. So, we feel that we've really been fortunate. But we just, we keep it real. The brand is authentic. It's a real extension of, mine and my husband, who's the founder. I'm the co-founder. Our beliefs and our values. It takes a lot of diversity and a lot of different voices who have shared values to create a revolution. So as far as your question about women dominating this business, I actually, I don't think that's necessarily true. There are a lot of female voices, and I really think because, there's so many caregivers, and cannabis really attracts caregivers because it's very powerful medicine. But, we are, longtime believers and proponents of social justice. So, we love many kinds of diverse voices, male, female, any gender, any belief system, as long as they're kind of part of, seeing cannabis as what it really is and spreading the word, that's what's meaningful to us.
And thank you. And Andrew, from where you are building a more traditional modern apothecary brand, what has worked for you on the traditional side, and are you facing any restrictions when you're rolling out your cannabis collection? What's working for you and what's not?
Well, to go back a little bit, for the women's perspective, when we first created our cannabis scent, it's very peppery, it's spicy, and one might say that it could possibly skew more to men than women. And interestingly, what we found is that we had a really strong female following with the fragrance, that it definitely tapped into a female movement of some kind. And we were super pleasantly surprised by that, because the scent is a little bit, it's maybe more traditionally spicy than a woman might wear, but I think women really were attracted to the concept of it being cannabis and making a statement, probably a little bit in the name as well as the fragrance. From a regulatory perspective, we faced two problems. One, in the U.S., having actual cannabis in it was problematic for so many regulatory reasons that we originally had cannabis in it. We had to take it out because it became too problematic with all the different municipalities and states. And then, ironically, we are not allowed to sell this product in the European Union because it does not have cannabis in it. So you can't win, of course. So the more that things evolve and the more that things change and it becomes gentrified, so to speak, then it'll be better for all of us.
And, Anja, you're actually creating a tactile experience. We didn't really talk about the personal experience. You're creating a printed magazine that's, you don't have a ton of content online, and that's by design. Can you talk about this kind of analog, kind of personal experience? Maybe we can all talk about that, why that is kind of special to cannabis, CBD, or what we're talking about.
Yeah, we get to exist in a cool space because we're making something that is all about, 80% about cannabis, but it doesn't have to, we don't have to worry about regulations because it's a magazine. So we get to talk about all of the topics that might still be illegal or gray, and we can be kind of free with it because we are totally independent and have that flexibility to explore it in a really interesting way. And I think with cannabis, I love print on its own. I come from a publishing background, and the experience of cannabis is so sensory and really takes you away. Like, I don't want to look at a screen if I've smoked weed, I want to have my moment to like dive into the details. So I think that's just something that works a lot better when you're holding a real thing in your hands and you can really dive into like the images and the feeling of it. So we take a lot of notes from that internally on our editorial team too. We try to consider like what our reader might want to listen to, and maybe a little music recommendation in a caption, or what scent or something like that they might want to explore along with it. So we try to touch on these different parts of life that cannabis really is part of. Like, it's such a sensory thing, and that can exist in print much better than I think it can digitally. And
this next question was actually planted by on LinkedIn through Travis Stratford. Where are you? Is he here? There you Case Agency. Yes, thank you. So Travis had a great question. Let's talk about, how do you build a prestige brand in this space? You, Andrew, you've kind of started in the traditional space and now in the cannabis space. So, I'll start with you. Like, what are the lessons that you can apply to building a prestige brand that, like, skin and beauty care have traditionally done with experiences and brand experiences? So how do you do that? What are the pitfalls?
Well, we hopefully started already with a prestige luxury brand. And when we introduced cannabis, it was really looking back again to the roots of the traditional apothecary. And the thing that's so wonderful about fragrance, it is by nature Proustian. It's about telling a story, and it's about evoking memories and thinking. And so all these things are very, very elevated by nature. We weren't going in a hippie direction, in a Fast Times at Ridgemont High direction. It was always like, how are we going to elevate this very sophisticated plant that has so many amazing properties and bring it back to something that was very about wellness and something that was very beneficial. So it was sort of built in already with the brand and the way that we were angling it.
And Cindy, from where you sit, you're coming from in to coming out to being a prestige brand. Is it messaging? I notice in your packaging when you open it, there's a little message that says the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I was very tickled by that. But your packaging has been referred to as the Hermes of CBD packaging with good reason. So how do you build a prestige brand from where you sit?
We built the brand that we were looking for, and we couldn't find. I'm a low dose user, so that was very important. We couldn't find anything that was under 20 milligrams of THC, which is a very high dose. I take 2 milligrams and I'm perfectly happy. So I had to cut a cookie into 17 pieces, and it was like Russian roulette. You take a tiny crumb of a 180 milligram cookie, and sometimes you'd have a great experience, and sometimes you'd be in the corner for 36 hours praying. So we knew we wanted to create a brand that was a low-dose brand. It was one piece for one dose. You weren't cutting anything. We set out to create a brand that overall would elevate the category, but we wanted whatever the product was, we wanted it to be a great experience, to taste wonderful, to feel wonderful, to have terrific ingredients, even if it weren't infused. So you weren't choking down some terrible confection just to get high. We wanted to figure out how to actually dose the product so you knew exactly what you were getting. And our topicals are dosed, so every pump, you know exactly how much medicine is in it. So we set out to create a brand that was transparent, that stood for quality and efficacy, that was consistent, most importantly, that every time you bought it, you had the same experience. And so we created the brand that we wanted to see in the world.
And you've also mentioned how important education is, right? So, that's from whatever level you come in at, a Sephora counter or something that really requires education to reduce the stigma. Like, what are you doing in terms of education to build the brand as well? Is it workshops? Is it on-sites, focus groups?
Right. So out of the gate, we positioned ourselves as a health and wellness brand, because if we knew anything about cannabis, we knew that when we consumed cannabis in whatever way, the anxiety that we were experiencing was diminished. So we always thought about it as having powerful medicinal properties. But we also partnered with many mainstream brands that people would recognize, like the Standard Hotel. Hopefully, if everything goes as planned, we'll open the first Lord Jones store in the lobby of the Standard Hotel in West Hollywood. We partnered with Equinox. We partnered with NeueHouse. And NeueHouse was really such a pioneer in terms of reaching a like-minded consumer. We hosted medicated sound baths. Sound baths are a modality of, it's basically meditation for dummies. There's some kind of sound modality. You come in, you lay down, and you're put into a really incredible state of calm and presence. So we would medicate on the front end, have a sound bath, and NeueHouse was the first place that hosted our sound baths and had the courage to get into this space and take great risk with us. So we are very grateful. So we just, we thought about the mainstream. We thought about, how do we cut into the zeitgeist? And our packaging starts a conversation. And then, we just went from there.
Great. And Andrew, taking it back to design, your packaging has been featured in, I think, in the Cooper Hewitt San Francisco Museum, and what I think may have been missing for a while in this space is great, design, modern design. And doesn't great design create trust, in a sense, or an emotion, or a storytelling? I would love to hear your design.
It creates great trust, it inspires, and it also provokes. I mean, listen, the reason we named our product Cannabis was to be provocative and to destigmatize. It was meant to tell a story, but also turn the knife a little bit and say, well, this is a unique product, and it's really special, and it's not what you necessarily think it is. And design features into that very, very, very heavily.
And I'll go down the line with this. What happens when there are no more restrictions? How does that impact, your business first, Megan? Like, what do you do? And then, I think Anja, and then Cindy and Andrew, what happens when you can do anything? Does it remove the allure? Is there no more creative tension? Is there no more rebellion about it? I feel like you want to answer this first. No. Okay.
Well,
Go ahead.
I as a personal, my journey with cannabis, back in my high school days was always more about rebellion. I always thought of myself as a pot smoker manqué. I liked the idea of it more than I actually was good at it. And so I think part of the allure is, of course, being contrarian and being a little bit on the outside. And but eventually, we do want to bring people into the fold, and we do want to demystify it. But sometimes the journey is more interesting than the destination.
And so, Megan?
I agree with the journey, I think.
Yeah.
But for us, it's like our dream world to have everything legal across the country, because then everybody can access all the medicinal qualities of the plant, all of the, there's like over 1,000 uses for hemp alone, known uses for hemp, from hemp concrete, to build your house, to clothing, to car doors, bioplastics. So the day that it's legalized 100% across the country, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think it just makes it more accessible to everyone, and you don't have to hear these stories of children being removed from their parents because they're trying to help them, or
Right. And I think that the takeaway is you guys are positioned. You guys are at the tip of the spear, and you're ready for it. So once that happens, Cindy, do you just go full on into more products, more marketing, because you are very senior marketing executive? That's a background, very sophisticated.
I hope that that's the future. I think, what we've discovered about this plant through working with patients who have, so many different, very, very serious ailments, from migraine sufferers to cancer patients to patients who are addicted to opioids or allergic to opioids and have no other options for pain management and are post-accident or post-operative. We hope that that is the future. And what happens when we get there, I can't say. We keep, every single day we assess all of the changes in the federal and municipal and state laws on a day-by-day basis. It's looking good. Things are going quickly in some ways, but I think we have to worry about big pharma coming in. What does that look like? Mitch McConnell's interest in hemp is really driven by money, not about wellness.
Yes.
But we'll take it. I think it's hard to predict the future, and everything has changed so quickly in so many ways. But we remain hopeful.
I'm just going to add one other thing in defense of legalization is one of the great injustices of marijuana has really been social justice, and that kids in privileged neighborhoods who go to fancy private schools, when they smoke pot, it's cool, it's fine, they get a slap on the wrist, and if you live in the inner city, 3 strikes, you're out. So there's a terrible, terrible price to pay that happens with the divisions in class and ethnicity.
Yeah, this is a perfect segue because this is the question that we're going to end on before we open up the Q&A. As you were saying, cannabis forever has been the benign way for young mostly white men to rebel, but non-white men are put in jail and continue to be in jail. So in our quest for the elevation of this and design and luxury, what can we do about creating a positive impact and embracing diversity on a consistent basis? Is it messaging, imagery, hiring? This is many panels worth, but we have to, discuss this. So I'm thinking, Megan, if we go down the line, what do you do? What do we do to kind of create this path and take everyone with us?
Well, I think because this is a new and fastly growing industry, it's a perfect opportunity for us to start off on the right foot, to start brands that are conscious brands that are, hiring, diverse, they're diverse brands. And even, they're making products that are transparent from the beginning. I just think it's a huge opportunity to really take hold of this, the whole package, because this is such a new industry. It's just wide open, and you can start from the beginning instead of, getting 20 years down the road and saying, oh, we only have 30% women and 70% men, we need to hire more women. We can start from the beginning and make sure that we're diverse from the start and that everyone's getting an equal opportunity.
And Anja, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a lot about the transparency and what, not only product quality, but who's running the company. When we talk about women entrepreneurs in the space, the numbers are really low. They're higher than the other industries, but they're low. And it's not going to be enough for a company's design to look great, or maybe even for their products to be great. We need to see that people are spending their resources where they can on social justice, because cannabis and social justice are the same thing. You can't have one without the other. And as on a consumer level, we can ask for those things. We can go in a legal place, to a dispensary, and say, do you have any women-owned farms represented here? Or, participating in those things on a consumer level and as well on the business level. If you're the person controlling the money, do that work.
And Cindy?
All the entrepreneurs out there can, make a decision to run their companies in a way that promotes social justice, paying a living wage, making sure that you are, running your company and in a way that promotes diversity, promotes social justice. Anyone who knows anything about the licensure process, it's complex to say the least, but the municipalities are really forcing companies to take a very strong stance on social justice and diversity. And if there's anything that anyone in the cannabis space knows, it's we have deep respect for those who came before us and took tremendous risks, and cultivators who've been doing this for hundreds of years, and people have been incarcerated, and that's incredibly meaningful to us, those who started this revolution and continue to speak out. So, it's all about the values of your company and the choices that you make. And that translates to the consumer. That authenticity is really kind of the essence of your brand and the essence of your voice.
And you, Andrew, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, we're in a little bit of a different category, obviously, but again, I think when we look at why we named the product Cannabis, was to sort of, yes, be provocative, but provocative for change, to demystify it, to quote-unquote decriminalize it, and that if we made it something that you walked into someone's bathroom and they had a cannabis parfum or a cannabis hand wash or a cannabis candle burning, wow, that's sort of edgy, but then you see it over and over again, it's sort of like, oh yeah, it's a cannabis candle. So we've taken a little bit of the badness out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in closing out, I mean, luxury today is accessibility and being inclusive, and as we move forward together, Megan, as you said, a redo is long overdue, and honestly, you guys are the ones doing it, and appreciate you coming. And if you've noticed the common thread here, it's an entrepreneurial and activist streak. So I think we have some very talented people up here, and I think we'll open it up for a Q&A. Mr. Walter, Mr. Donahue.
Thank you, Jed. Thank you, everyone on the panel. One quick question. You talked about staying on top of all of the legal, all the changes in the judicial branches, and talking about, just on Jed's last question, about giving back, or what are you doing? My question to you is, what is the actual thing you're doing to actually help people who probably have been incarcerated because of the industry that you're profiting off of?
Good question.
No, because there are before you answer, it takes what, $2,500 to expunge a person who has been convicted of weed. So I want to know, what exactly are you doing to help these people, if at all?
There's a really cool team of all women lawyers in LA who some people are sponsoring these events in really great ways that help. Like, they'll help you fill out the forms. Some, like Marley Natural, sponsored one maybe a year ago up in Washington that they covered the fees for everyone who did it, which was like really cool to see because they have the resources to do things like that. And yeah, the same kind of thing with these women in LA. They did work to open an open day where you could sign up and come and get your questions answered, and they would help you make a step forward. So we don't really have the resources yet, but we can help lift up those people who are helping. So we try to connect people who are doing good work, and those are the people we write about in the magazine. So I guess our best move is awareness at this point without the cash.
Question: how, in terms of payment processors and banking, if it's federally illegal and then legal by states, how do you navigate that?
That's the $10,000 question. You get a really good lawyer to start, but
that's more than $10,000.
Banking is very complex. It's federally regulated, and payment processing is another complexity. It's hard for me to tell you, get into it here, but you have to find the right partners, local banks who can give you the support that you need. And payment processing is a whole other universe. So there's no easy answer to that question, but that's why I always try to correct the idea that cannabis is legal, because there are so many different aspects of the business that make it challenging to operate. And every day there are, ways in which we're making headway as a country, and ways in which we're still really restricted in this business. I can talk to you a little bit after, if you'd like.
I'd like to know who the next Lord Jones is. Maybe it's an easier question for Megan or Anja, but I hope that there's one brewing, and I want to know who you think it might be.
I hope so too. I mean, I don't know. I think there are lots of great companies doing great work in the space, and I know there are a lot of people who are interested in getting into this space. So I hope there are many more companies.
Do you mean like specifically in edibles, or just who's exciting to us? Just exciting, yeah. Well, I really love this brother and sister fashion duo called Sunday School, like Ice Cream Sunday, AE. And they are just super fun Korean-American duo that make what they call smokewear. And their fashion line is so playful, so fun. Their lookbooks are amazing. They're having such a good time with it. And they have such a sense of humor and are bringing the fashion side into it in a way that I just adore, like everything they do. So watch them. They're fun too.
Guys, thanks so much for hosting this. I'm active both on the hemp side in the state of New York and in the cannabis side in multiple states. But what I'm struggling with right now is taking a look at when you might get some 280E relief. To be a tax nerd, it's when you can deduct your operating expenses while being involved in a cannabis business, or when we may see the Congress push take more of a formal stand in delegating states' rights and letting them really run a full cannabis program on a state level. Do you guys have any view on that?
I think it'll be interesting to see what Canada does with that, because they will have it is federally legal now. They're kind of working, but from province to province, there are still specific rules for each province. So it's like a little of what we have here, but also something new that I think will be really interesting to watch, how their government shapes that whole system. That's my best idea.
If the Republicans stand for anything, they stand for states' rights. So, that's the silver lining, maybe. In some ways, the momentum is going in very positive directions. So we're hopeful that it continues.
We have a question over there.
Hello. Okay. Thank you again, and for who invited me, Anja. Thank you. I wanted to ask, I'm lucky I have a mentor. She's an angel investor. That's the only reason I'm in this whole cannabis industry. But if you don't have somebody like that, if you don't have an angel investor, you don't have a mentor, how do you recommend people getting started in the business?
I had a lot of phone calls. And honestly, those calls and those conversations that I had with mostly other women who were already in the space were the thing that really convinced me that it was worth doing. I think anytime you're bringing something new into any market or any industry, there needs to be a need for it. And if people have a real personal desire to see this thing come to life, then you find yourself with a really tremendous community right away. And that's been something that I would never, ever expect to find jumping into any other industry. The support and the sense of community that I've been so, welcomed into just, keeps me motivated and blows my mind. And I do everything I can to pay it forward, too, because every conversation you have, you think of 5 other people that person should meet and talk to, and they're met with that same enthusiasm right now because we can't do it by ourselves. It's too new. It's too... we need each other.
Yes. I'm just going to put a button on this. If I could get one sentence from each of you, what are we going to be talking about a year from now?
Trump.
Are you all going to say the same?
I hope we're not talking about Trump.
I wish not. But
In this space, yes.
Trump. No, I don't know, honestly. Maybe
a month ago, there was a new discovery, a discovery of a new organ, the interstitium. I know it sounds like I'm making it up, but I'm not. And it is 4 layers below the outer layer of your epidermis. And there have been many questions about how acupuncture works and how cancer metastasizes. And it's seen, the interstitium seen as a channel, a fluid that runs throughout your entire body. And we have had so many questions about how CBD works. And the incredible efficacy, you use it on your shoulder and your foot that hurts feels better, which makes no sense at all. There are conversations about transdermal, is it topical? So, a new organ was just discovered. The new information that we're learning every single day is changing this conversation, evolving this conversation on every single level. So I hope that in a year we know much more than we know now, that many more people turn to plant-based medicine than prescription medication, and that the awareness spreads, and that the acceptance is more evolved than where it is now.
Great. Anja?
I really want to see us finding new ways to experience cannabis together in groups. You can't consume in a public space in legal states together. So they're really restricted to these private homes. And I'm ready for the museum of ice cream, but for weed, where we can just go and wander through some really fun sensory space.
Megan?
Again,
you saying that has generated some.
I know, now they're coming to get us because they know what we're talking about. Again, speaking on behalf of hemp, if this farm bill passes, that'll be huge, and it'll just create a whole new industry for farmers. Instead of subsidizing corn, paying people to not grow corn, hopefully the government can pay farmers to grow hemp. I just see this whole new industry coming out, and hopefully in the next year, it's a long road, but if they can legalize hemp and get it off of the Schedule I classification, it's going to create a lot more jobs. We don't want coal workers. We want farmers to creating this new miracle plant and growing it and getting it out there in the country.
I mean, it's all very exciting, and it's only tracking upwards. I really want to thank all of you for coming. And before we send you over to the tables over there, our panelists have provided you all some goodies in an orderly fashion. I really want to thank my Uber Life, our partners, and Andrew, Cindy, Anja, and Megan for coming out here. And I want to bring Anna Cogswell, head of membership at NeueHouse. They've been an incredible partner. She has a few comments to make, and thank you again.
I really don't have much to say. I just wanted to say thank you all for coming. And definitely please go over to the table. The products are incredible. Thank you.